About a year ago, I know everyone keeps telling you this, we were in the same position trying to figure out how we're going to get this compass to work with our processes and get our grid to work. So everyone has the same apprehension, but it will get easier. And some people might have more experience with case management than I did. So you might even have an easier job than what I went through. But I did eventually get the compass model started, and it took me a little while to kind of get the process down and understand really what I was supposed to do. And all of a sudden, one day a light bulb went off, and I'm like, okay, now I got it. It makes sense. I know what to do, and it made it easier. And so everyone will have a learning process. They'll have questions. So I just tell you, don't worry about that. The more questions you have, the better you're going to get. Matter of fact, I have a speed dial for Rika and Sylvia because I have talked to them so often. What do I do about this? What do I do about that? And so we've become very close friends, and I appreciate their help, and I'm sure you guys will do the same. So when I started doing all this grid and trying to get the process to work, it was a little difficult to wrap my head around, like I said, but we got it working. And there's a few things that I do with the stroke program that I run. And one is I do monthly neuroscience meetings, and we talk about our successes, we talk about our metrics, we talk about how we can improve our community service. And the common goal is to achieve better quality outcomes and patient outcomes. But I had the first stroke health fair, which last May, it was our first annual. I hope to have it next May. We had the best fun. I invited all the stroke and TIA patients that came to our hospital prior to May, and I invited our staff to come to this. And we had food and drinks, and I had a boom box, but I don't think they call it boom box nowadays. That's back when I was growing up, and it was pretty cool. But it has a microphone, and it has a stereo, and we had the music playing, and we had different people that rehab, we had spiritual care, we had a CPR station, and had just different representation to try and educate the staff and educate our patients as much as possible. And like every 15 minutes, I made some trivia stroke questions, and I would get the microphone out, and everyone's waiting to try and, get up there to win a prize. And so it got to be really fun and competitive. I want to get this one, and they'll try and answer the question. And it was a lot of fun. So that was another thing that we did. And I'm trying also to get a support group going. I've had it tried for 3 months, and I know what I want to do. I know what I want to talk about and how I want to educate, but I'm kind of having a hard time getting the people to come back to the hospital. So that's what I'm working. So if anybody has any suggestions of how they've done that, I'm glad to hear it. The other thing I think everyone's heard of that I said earlier that I did apply for a CHS grant, and we got the blood pressure monitors and machines to give to our patients. And I think that's great because, everyone knows if you have high blood pressure, you're high risk for stroke. And if they monitor their pressures and they know what their normal blood pressure is, they know when to call the doctor. Hey, my blood pressure's up, I'm taking my medicines, I don't know what's going on, what do you want me to do? And that will give them initiative to hopefully not have another stroke and not go 6 months to a year not knowing when their blood pressure's sky high. So that was one thing that I wanted to get going really quickly, and I was very fortunate to have that. But the reason I'm telling you about the things that I've done to try and educate and do things in our hospital is because you build relationships, and I know you've heard people say that, but that's really what happens. I mean, when they come in and they have a stroke, or even TIA, as a navigator, I go talk to them, and I met Percy, I think the next day after he was admitted, and we went through stroke education, and I went through the compass folder, told him, all about what that was and what the magnet is and what to expect, and then I always call usually the first day after discharge. I know you have up to 2 days, But I feel, well, if I start on the first day and I get them cool, if not, I have another day to work and still follow within the guidelines of the research. So, so then you talk to them then, and then you know about seeing them in clinic, and you're asking questions there, and then the 30 and 60 day and all that. So you build a relationship with your patients. And I've been an ICU nurse for 30 years prior to taking this position that I'm in now. And ICU, they're there one day, they're not the next day, or they're there for a long time, and then they go to LTAC. And you never know what happens to your patients. And so this way I feel so satisfied because I know what my patients are doing, and I know that they're okay, or they need help, or they don't need help, or whatever. So that's really good. So 6 months to a year, you guys are also going to have improved outcomes, increased patient satisfaction, and also build relationships with your patients. Now, the COMPASS model and the grid, that's the main thing, because that's what you really are going to do. You want to make sure they have the resources. And a lot of times when they're in the hospital, they have no idea what they might need. They just are thinking, I want to go home. I just want to go home. And then when they get home, something might happen and they realize, oh wow, I can't do that. I don't have anybody here to help me. What am I going to do about that? So that's how it's real important for us to talk to them and use the resources. So one of the resources that has been my saving grace is the Community Care of North Carolina, or the RX Pharmacy. And you can read the slide here that the goal of this pharmacy is to improve quality of care and patient outcomes related to medication use. They want to enhance patients' overall health, and they want to reduce the total cost of care. People that benefit from this are, North Carolina Medicaid, North Carolina Health Choice, Medicare, Medicaid, so they can get help without having to pay extra additional cost. And there's a website for people to look and learn more about it if you don't know about it now. But patient safety is, I think, their #1 goal. And the reason I say that is because people that have strokes have different problems. Some people can't afford to buy their medicines. Some people can't open their medicines because, their hand's not working right or whatever. Or some people can't drive, at least till they see their neurologist, a couple weeks later. Or sometimes they can't drive for a long time. So they run into some problems. And this Community Care of North Carolina does so much stuff over than the regular pharmacy, that what they do. They'll make the packaging to where they can open it better. They'll bubble wrap it. They will do a vital signs, make sure their vital signs are good. They'll do a PHQ-9, they'll check for depression. They deliver their medicines to them. If they can't come get it or whatever, they'll bring it to them. They do smoking cessation, they'll bill the Medicaid and Medicare. I mean, it's amazing that they are people that can do this and help our patients like they have. And I can't speak any more wonderful praises than I have, because that's the one thing I really have used a lot. But the last patient that I helped use in the RX Pharmacy was Percy Miller. He had a stroke last August, and like I said, I met him while he was in the hospital. His wife wasn't there. Matter of fact, I met her the next day when I called. I asked for Percy, and he was busy or was unavailable, so I talked to Christy. And Christy kind of started telling me her story, and I don't want to get into it because I don't want to take away from her. I'm going to let her tell you her story. But I do want you to introduce them, saying that they've been married for 17 years, and they have 5 children together. Christy has the child daycare in her home, and Percy is a fence builder. They both take care of Christy's elderly mother. So you can tell they're very outgoing, very busy, and have a busy lifestyle. So I want to express my sincere gratitude for you coming and taking the time to talk to these people about how COMPASS Intervention has helped you. Okay? Welcome, Christy.
Well, I'm not a speaker, but I do have a testimony about COMPASS. Again, my name is Christy Miller. My husband's Percy Miller. He had a stroke in August. We was riding around, getting ready to drop our grandkids off, and I noticed something different about Percy. And the reason I knew something was wrong was a poster that was posted up in the elevator at University Hospital. On this poster, it said, if you're having stroke, you have slurring speech. The face was, excuse me, the face was drooping. He had a headache, and I knew he was having a stroke. So I took him to emergency room at University Hospital. When we got there, unfortunately, we was just in the process of changing our insurance. We had no insurance at all. They treated us well. We had no problems at all for us seeing a doctor or just anybody being kind to us. So the next day, once we were admitted, we were getting ready to be discharged. Like Rhonda said, Rhonda stopped by to see Percy. She left a compass folder that had information about strokes. Not only that, she gave us a blood pressure meter, which we did not have. We use this blood pressure meter now 3 to 4 times a day. We're constantly checking his blood pressure. And I do remember when we had left the hospital, they had already told me, now if his blood pressure reached at this peak, call us. It reached the peak. I called them. They told us what to do. The next day after we were released from the hospital, Rhonda had called me and asked me, did you get your medicines? Were you able to get a diabetic machine? I told her no. It cost us $400 just to get the medicine. But I could not go home. I could not lay down beside Percy and not get that medicine. So she referred me to RX Pharmacy. In RX Pharmacy, we were able to purchase a diabetes meter. And that diabetes meter was affordable for me to get. And I thank God for RX Pharmacy, because not only did we get a meter, they came to my house and brought it to us. I did not have to leave Percy. Excuse me.
It's all right.
That's my heart. That's my partner. So I just couldn't leave, and I spent my money that we had to pay bills with. Ron referred us to somewhere else where we can get our bills paid. Thank you, Ron. But I'm sorry, y'all, that I'm not communicating with you the way I wanted to communicate with you. But I am grateful. I'm grateful for what you have did to introduce us to Compass. Like I said, not only they gave us a blood pressure meter, I was able to get a diabetic machine to get the meter so I can get his diabetic reading every day. So I'm sorry, Percy, I couldn't do it the way I wanted to do it. But I thank Compass for what they have did. And I hesitated when she asked me to come, but then I said, how could I not go when Compass has helped us to be able to do the things that we do, and we may can help someone else. So I want to say thank you, Compass. Thank you, Rhonda. Sylvia, thank you for inviting me so that I can stand up here and blab off of my mouth about what was done. But I am grateful, and my husband is grateful too. He's very grateful. And I just thank God that we're alive. He's well, he can get up and talk himself, but he put me up here. Thank you.
Any questions that I can answer? I know at the end, all the questions have been answered, so, which is good for me, I guess. Thank you.